Hey, greetings, everyone. This is your host and Vice President of the American Institute of Stress. It's Will Heckman. Thanks again for joining us on Finding Contentment, the official podcast of the American Institute of Stress. I'd like to ask all of you who are listening or viewing this podcast, go to stress.org, subscribe to our magazines, check out the webinars, look at all the information. Half of it's free, maybe more than half. It's all about stress-related issues. And, you know, if you're watching us, I'm going to ask because we got voted in the top 10 of the top 100 stress podcasts. So it was because you guys hit that subscribe button. So please do it. I appreciate it. It helps grow the channel. Look, today we're going to be speaking about stress and aging, a topic that's become even more interesting to me. Stress is often viewed as a momentary challenge. But over time, it can become a key factor in how we experience aging, affecting everything from our physical health to our emotional well-being, our cognitive function. So today, we will take a deeper look at some long-term effects on its role in things like inflammation, brain health, and overall longevity. We're also going to explore some practical strategies to better manage stress at any age, and helping you build resilience, maintain vitality, and approach the aging process with maybe some greater strength and maybe some peace of mind. So joining me today is going to be Julie Gibson. She is a longevity practitioner who's held the #2 rank on the Rejuvenation Olympics leaderboard for over a year. She's a former structural engineer where she looked into other kinds of stress, a graphics designer and recruiter. And Julie applies a system-based approach to aging, including a link between things like stress management and biological durability. And she views mindset stresses like meditation and exercise and tools to manage psychological load of our modern life. Her results prove elite longevity is accessible on a budget for under $150 a month. I know there's a guy out there who talks about longevity all the time, spends $1 million a year. Well, yeah, Julie achieved biological aging pace of just 65 days for every 100 days you and I live. She did it by prioritizing things like stress management and her diet, mental fortitude. She demonstrates that high-performance health is a matter of strategic habit rather than high cost. And Julie is dedicated to sharing these practical protocols to help others stay vibrant and live a long life. So please join me in welcoming our guest, Julie Gibson. Hi, Julie.
Hi. Thank you for having me. Just one tiny correction so that people don't think I am a longevity practitioner. I'm a practitioner of one. So I am definitely not a doctor, not a researcher. I didn't want to mislead anybody. But, you know, I've obviously experimented on myself, which is really kind of the heart of, as much as I hate the term biohacking, but that is, you know, at its heart. And I think we're all sort of on that N of one experiment, really. I mean,
well, like you said, the reason I wanted to speak to you is I read an article that you wrote and looked at everything and then said, wait a minute, you know, scientists always talk about proofs at the end of the research. Mm-hmm. Hey, guys, there it is.
Yeah, but again, N of one, but still, yes, but, absolutely.
You know, if I told people your age, they would not believe me. I don't know if you want to, but
I'm fine. I'm 57. I celebrate. I'm very, very pleased. I've always, I don't know, I've just never been shy about it. I'm 57 and I'm very proud of every one of those years.
As you should be. I sort of remember 57, but it was a while ago. And I remember that's when things, because I was not doing a lot of the things that you promote, it made a difference. I felt the difference. I was an athlete my whole life. I was a competing athlete, and even up to 52. But I found that certain things happen. You stop doing certain things, and your body responds negatively to that. And I wanted to ask you about response,
Yeah.
how our body, responds to stress changes as we age.
Yeah,
Is
you
it a
kind of touched
different?
on, I was going to say, you sort of just touched on something right there. So there's sort of this downward spiral. I mean, I think the term, correct me if I'm wrong, but is allostatic load. So, when you're young, you have a stressor, and we see this in our kids. They have a stressor, and then they're somewhat resilient. The stress resolves, life moves on. Now, of course, I'm not talking about, kids experiencing long-term trauma. That's a completely separate conversation. But for the average kid growing up in a happy household, they have their stressors and then they're over it. I mean, they're over it before we're over it usually. So,
Yeah,
but as you get older, that response gets, I think, this isn't a technical term, but the way I think of it is messier and messier. It doesn't cleanly respond. And one of the things I think about a lot is, as we get older, obviously we're producing hormones, and we have to produce cortisol. So they have what's called this pregnenolone steal. And I think Dr. Dale Bredesen talks about this in some of his work. Other doctors have talked about this, but pregnenolone is that master hormone. It comes in, and there's this pregnenolone steal is what it's called when you're excessively stressed, because that pregnenolone is needed to make cortisol. And so if you are, trying to outrun the tiger, as your body feels like it needs to, it's going to just push all of it to cortisol. And now you have nothing to make your estrogen, your testosterone, your progesterone, all the things that come down, stream of that. And all of a sudden, you're just making cortisol. Now you're not making these other hormones that,
right.
help you feel good. I mean, as you get older, like, we need the progesterone for the GABA. It helps us sleep better. We need the estrogen. That also helps buffer the cortisol and the testosterone. I mean, all of those things, it just sort of becomes this downward spiral, because now you don't have those things. And then now you don't sleep very well. You're just kind of stressed out. You're not responding to food as properly as you would. You've got all these things that then it's like, well, then now that's another stressor, and it's producing more cortisol. And so it's just a downward spiral, and we really need to be very active in how we manage our stress and trying to resolve it. You have to have practices to resolve those stressors. I mean, even the ones that you feel like they're over, they might still be in your body per se. I know I feel that. Like if I've had a stressful day, I could kind of feel its lasting effects till the next day, even though everything's been resolved.
Right.
So
Well, your mind resolves it in its own good time. I wanted
yeah,
to talk. It's funny you look it up. I wanted to talk to you about hormones because we
yeah.
know that stress causes. I mean, people at the end of the day have been swimming in a sea of cortisol, and
Hmm.
many men. I can only speak from a man's perspective, are doing TRT. And for those of you
Hmm.
that don't know, TRT is testosterone replacement therapy. At a
Hmm.
certain age, men stop producing as much testosterone or at all in some
Hmm.
cases. So they do things like TRT. Do you consider that a good thing? Is
I,
that
I
something that
definitely do. Yeah. I mean, again, not being, preface this, I am not a doctor. I'm not a researcher. I'm just your average human person. But the research I've done into that, and I'm on hormone replacement therapy as well. And, you know, I think we all know the archetype of a woman, the kind of I say more of like stereotype of a woman in menopause who's, hot and angry and stressed out. And, you give them hormones, and it's like, I remember I was in perimenopause and I was living here in the United States, and I kept saying, I'm not sleeping. I know I'm hitting menopause. And they kept looking at my hormones and saying, you're fine. Thank God I moved to Dubai right when this all started, and the doctor there had a completely different, the kind of the MO that the doctors are sort of shifting to now is like, you need the hormones. Like this is going to help you sleep. This is going to. So I luckily really didn't have to deal with too much perimenopause, maybe like months instead of
Mm,
years. I mean, I could have been a decade like this is how they would have left me. And, you know, all that does is just, I mean, you know, the lack of sleep. There you go. There's more cortisol. Now you're craving more sugary things and you're producing a ton of insulin. That's more
right.
cortisol. I mean, it's such a downward spiral. And so I do think, you know, for me, I got the hormones, what was like 2014, long before I had officially hit menopause. And that, you know, just completely evened everything out, helped me, you know, just be the person I always was, which is I'm pretty serene, you know. I mean, things stress me out, don't get me wrong, but I try to like keep a baseline and, you know, I meditate and I have several practices which we can get into, but, you know, that try to keep everything homeostatic, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah. So, but
You
I
know,
do think
it's
hormones play a big role. And I mean, if you think about like the hormones, like I'm learning so much about hormones in your brain, all the
mm,
different estrogen receptors in your brain. And I'd imagine there's as well testosterone, and men have estrogen as well. But,
mhm.
you know, you've got, if you start losing that, it's just like, you know, this is where it's like you're losing it in the hypothalamus. That's where the hot flashes are coming from. And it's like if you're losing it in your brain, you know, your memory is suffering, your feelings, you just feel frayed, like you just, and that is its own stressor, and you're going to produce more cortisol, which is just, again, you're going to start that downward spiral.
It's funny we talked about the difference in hormones between men and women because men, I've known men, I know a lot of men, you know, just who take TRT, who do
Hmm.
a hormone replacement, and some women too. Um, is there a gender difference on how we age? On how just men and women just, I'll say, handle stress or manage their stress differently. They just do. We just
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
And men are very like nuts and bolts. I want to, oh my God, there's a problem. Let me fix it.
yeah.
And it doesn't always work that way. But in your experience, you've worked with a lot of people and you've watched, you know, the differences in men and women. Is there a
Yeah.
difference on how stress impacts their aging?
Well, I think again, just my observation, but it seems to me that you know, the testosterone is lowering sort of at this even curve, you know. And then whereas like the estrogen, progesterone in women, it just like all of a sudden progesterone just
Yeah,
drops out and you're just like, what is going on? You know, and then your estrogen, you know, and it's going up and down, but sort of eventually down. But it's just that roller coaster. But, you know, back to just even how we respond to stress long before that. So, you know, women tend to be like a tend and befriend, you know, we tend to have like social circles, and so we have people that we can kind of vent to, whereas I think men, and I'm not saying it's wrong because I do think like having raised a son, I saw this especially when he hit puberty. He went from sort of telling me everything to sort of keeping anything, you know, to himself, and
right.
even, you know, going from talking to his friends to sort of like if things were upsetting him to just kind of ruminating. And I don't necessarily think that's all bad. I mean, I think that's just how his brain is working. But if you get into, again, a downward spiral, that's where things can get, you know, troublesome. And so, in that sense, I do think as well, you know, estrogen tends to buffer the cortisol a little better than maybe testosterone it does. And so, what we see in women is they have a they tend to have a better stress response until they hit menopause. And then once they've lost that estrogen, progesterone, their stress response seems to be more similar to men. And we see this in like the heart, like like heart attacks. That's, you know, the number one driver, heart disease and things like that. Number one driver of everyone once a woman is in menopause, so men or women. But before menopause, we have a lot of protection from that. And that has a lot to do with not only what it's doing for our heart, but as well as like our stress. So I think, you know, we tend to be A-okay, you hit menopause, and then it's like, it's worse. And then we're sort of the same as men once everything evens out.
And you know what? That's a fair point. I really didn't look at it that way, that women hit like a wall because
Hmm.
you hit menopause. Men,
Yeah.
as early as 25, 30 now are starting to produce less and less.
I was going to
Uh,
say it starts even earlier. I mean, we've had
yeah,
my son's testosterone looked at, and his is very, we don't call it low testosterone, but given his age, we're thinking he's in puberty, he's working out, he should be at like 1,000. I don't even
right.
know. I think he was like maybe at 400 for a 19-year-old kid who's at the gym, and it was pretty
And,
low.
and I wonder why, because the reason I got interested in it at all is, well, it's because I'm old, but besides that, is because
We're
I have
all an N of
friends.
one experiment.
Yes, I am an experiment.
Yeah.
Um, um, but I had friends starting to do it, and I had doctors starting to mention it. What? Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
It wasn't a topic of conversation until I hit um, the decade. I'm into my 60s,
Mhm.
and I think I don't tell me if you experience this problem is you speak to two doctors and you get three opinions. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it drives me
Yeah.
crazy. So I did my
Yeah.
own research, and
Yeah,
which is
that's exactly, yeah, this is exactly where this whole thing started. Like, it's like what, and also what is the action steps? What are the most effective actions,
right.
is what I kind of was looking for. And, when you feel horrible and the doctors are saying there's nothing wrong with you, and you're like, no, this is, that's when you have to start researching yourself. And I've learned, unfortunately, I've done enough research on myself that I've made mistakes, so I've learned to be a little more thorough in my research. But I do try things. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, though, like we were talking about the pregnenolone steal, and for people, again, as an action step, we have this sort of vicious cycle that we actually get into pretty much every day, depending on like your food choices. If you wake up in the morning and your cortisol is supposed to be high, I mean, that's supposed to get you going,
Right.
you get going the day. But every time your cortisol raises, your blood sugar raises to meet that demand. And if you don't start moving, your body's going to produce insulin to take care of that blood sugar. And if you think about it, like, let's just talk about like kind of the average American. At least I know I was like this in college for sure, and for years. You wake up, you've got that high cortisol response, you have a cup of coffee, that increases your cortisol. Again, not bad as long as you're going to go do something. Then you're going to eat like the sugary donut. And so now you're not only are you having a glucose response for the cortisol, you have a glucose response to the donut. And then you go sit at a desk. And so now you've got nowhere for all that sugar to go. So you produce more insulin. And then that insulin itself can be a stressor on the body. So it, produces more cortisol. And then you just get into this spiral. And so I just, again, I've not seen any research on this. I don't know, but from a logical perspective, from an engineering perspective, my question is always, are we seeing lower testosterone and these imbalanced hormones in women because we've been on that roller coaster for 20, 30, 40 years? And that's stealing any of that pregnenolone we would have used to make the testosterone. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know the answer to that. I'm sure there's, much greater minds, but that's where I sort of go, okay, well, that's one place I can definitely fix. I can fix what I put in my mouth. I can fix when I work out. I can fix, those are the actions I can take.
I mean, it makes sense. You're an engine that runs on its fuel. I mean, I once for a period of time cut out 90% of the sugar in my diet.
Yeah.
I felt great. I
Yeah.
mean, it takes a little while.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things I want people watching this and listening to this to understand. You're not taking a drug. You're making a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And it takes a little while.
Takes
Don't
a
say,
long time.
don't cut out sugar one day and say, well, I don't feel that much different the next day. Ask me
Because
in
you're going to
30
feel
minutes.
horrible, actually.
Right. Your body is exactly right. You're going to feel horrible. Your
Yeah.
body, I learned that sugar is 5 times more addictive than cocaine.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because I've had a serious sugar addiction that I had to deal with for a while, And once it was when I saw it, when I finally saw it for what it was, an addiction, I was like, this
Right.
is driving me, this little cycle starts becoming the thing that it drives you. It's like, and I also think I mean, there's a microbiome at play too, and that microbiome, all these little guys on board are like, wait a minute, where's our sugar? And then they start dying off, and that doesn't feel very good. So it's a tough thing. But like you
Right.
said, and I want to touch on that, is all these lifestyles changes and the way that I live my life. This took me 25 years to build. I did not build this even in a year. It took a long time, and I call it like the 100,000 layer cake. I just one habit. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to just stop eating sugar at night, and then I'm going to stop, I'm going to substitute fruit. And then eventually, and I mean, eventually, it took, I would say, easily 5 to 10 years to really eliminate sugar. Now my taste buds have adjusted, my microbiome is adjusted. I don't really crave it. And if I have something sugary, it's like, oh,
Is that sweet? Yeah. Ooh,
I mean, but I mean, I love
yeah.
cake like the rest of, I mean, I'm a baker. I love like a layer cake with the good frosting. I just, 3 bites is plenty now, whereas in the
Right.
past, it was like, I just keep eating it. So,
And you and I both know who the number one enablers are in our lives for us to eat crap. It's our kids.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
My daughter
I
comes to
did.
visit, and all of a sudden the pantry is filled with everything bad for me.
I
And
know. Well,
she's in her,
luckily,
she's 20 something. It's like,
yeah.
you
My
gotta have,
son, thank God, is super healthy. He doesn't want any of that crap anymore because, like, I
oh,
I love to bake for him, and he's just like, Mom. So I bake healthier things, but they're still somewhat sugary. So.
okay. I wanted to talk to you about something. We touched on it for a little bit, but it comes up a lot. AIS gets questions about it. And, I mean, there's a million people a year that come to our website. But long-term stress impacts things like memory, focus, overall brain health.
Hmm.
That happens as we get older normally,
Hmm.
almost to the point of where I think, it's just acceptable.
Hmm.
Is there a way to offset that, just help our overall brain health?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything like let me just say this directly that like okay, this doing this impacts your brain health. I'm actually just working on an episode on brain health right now. So I'm into the literature, and it looks like polyphenol. It seems like the answer to everything is polyphenols, but I can just everything I've researched this year. So that was one of the things as far as diet wise. But I think if people want some good information on brain health and aging, I would highly recommend Dale Bredesen and his Recode program and a lot of his work. And he talks about the many aspects that lead to dementia. And again, that's where I learned about this pregnenolone steel. And I do think, though, for me, having, you know, I've had some stressors in my life, and I know what that feels like or when I first started hitting perimenopause, like the memory loss and the like, wait, why am I in this room? What am I doing? Like, I had my friend's daughter, she used to go to the refrigerator and open it, and she would turn around and she'd go, Mommy, what am I doing? And her mom would be like, what are you talking about? And finally, she was at the fridge going, open it and going like, what am I doing? She's like, oh, that's what my daughter's doing. She's imitating me going to the
Oh, God.
fridge and not knowing like, what am I doing here? And saying that out loud. It was so funny. But so I do think though, there's like ways that we can mitigate that. Obviously, like exercise, like exercise is the answer to almost everything. You know, it's like
I agree.
exercise is the action and polyphenols are the food. And it's like, but I do think like meditation, I'd imagine you guys must talk about meditation.
We
I
do.
learned transcendental meditation that made a measurable difference in my cortisol, actually. So I know that that works. And I can feel it. Like if I'm having a day, or even like say the day before was stressed, and when I sit down to meditate, it's like I can feel my shoulders just kind of go, oh, oh yeah, I didn't realize I was walking around with all that stress. And then it just kind of like calms down. And so again, I go back to understanding that, you know, if I'm always building that cortisol, I'm not making a much of the other hormones my brain needs, you know, to run properly. Again, there are more aspects to that. And Dale Bredesen has done a great work on that. I don't remember all of the
Yeah, but
aspects of that, but
you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you're right. I mean, um, there's a lot of things we can do to, I mean, offset our, our brain deterioration.
hmm
You know, I mean, there are things we can do, and
simple
stress
things, very
management
simple.
has to be a big part of that. The fact that you talked about meditation, we just did a whole episode on meditation. You know what? I come from a generation that didn't meditate.
hmm
We didn't believe it. We didn't.
It was woo
I'll
woo.
fall asleep. It wasn't part of our just our lifestyles. You know,
hmm hmm
today when I talk to younger people in their 20s, I'm surprised how many of them meditate
hmm
or do some
Yeah.
form of meditation. And I'm so pleased by that. I'm so happy that they're so much more aware. I think people like you bring a lot of awareness to showing what stress management and slowing down the aging process and all the things that you can do to help that process, that aging disease, because that's what it
hmm
is. I mean, it's a
hmm
disease.
It's
You know, your chromosomes, you have a tail on it, and it gets shorter,
hmm
and we get older, and that's basically what happens. They call telomeres, but you know, it's all of these things that you mentioned and that you do, and I
hmm
want to talk about that um,
hmm
because you talk about what you do every day, daily habits, practices most effective for reducing stress and supporting healthy aging. Take
hmm
us through your day. This
Okay.
is it's
First, I just
very
want to touch
interesting.
on something because you kind of touched on it,
Please.
and I just want to say so. Meditation has been shown to increase telomerase activity.
Mm,
So, you know, you were talking about the telomeres, which are the
right.
caps on your, you know, I think most people know what those are now. You know, the caps on your little chromosomes, or anyway, and those shorten as we age with cell division. And if you are under stress and under a lot of cortisol, when they what do you say, not reproduce, but when they duplicate, that little end cap gets shorter and shorter until the point that it's kind of like frayed shoelaces. And meditation specifically has been shown to increase telomerase activity, which is what's helped, you know, protects those end caps a little better during stress. So not only are you lowering your cortisol, you're directly impacting your telomere health. So
Right.
I just wanted to say that. As
And
far as
that's helping us on a chromosomal level.
exactly, which again, you know, imagine those replicating how many millions of time over the course of a lifetime. And it's like if you can interrupt that cycle and put it on a healthier path, you're putting yourself on a healthier aging path right down to your chromosomes. So that's, you know, one more reason to meditate.
Right. And you do that every day, along with a
I
bunch of
do.
other different
I
things.
do. I mean, you know, yeah.
Starting
So
at 5 a.m., which is like, oh my God, look at. But I was
we
looking
were
at your website, and I'm going to put the website below so everybody else can see it as well. But you have what you do every day, and the kinds of things that you do. And I was looking at
yeah.
it, and it was really interesting. Talk.
There's been some tiny changes and I'm updating the website. So, stay tuned. But yeah, so I'm up at 4:30. And we were talking about this before we started recording, but I have always been a morning person, always, even, all through high school. I would go to bed at like 9:30. My parents have never had to tell me to go to bed. And they, even when I was little, bought me a television so I would be quiet in my room because I would be the one up, at 4 a.m. And there was nothing to watch on TV when I woke up. It was just the snow. Like there was nothing. It's not like cable is now. So it wasn't necessarily the best decision, but they put me in swimming so that I would go to swim practice super early in the morning and burn off a bunch of energy. And anyway, so I've just always been a morning person. It's my preferred thing to just know that if I'm going to get up, get my workout done so that with the rest of the day in front of me, if I try to put the workout at the end of the day, it all of a sudden feels optional. It's like, no, I
Yes.
just, I got all this other things to do. I need to sit and do work and I need to do this and it'll just get left. Whereas if I wake up and I think of almost nothing else, it's like, okay, I have to go. There's nothing on my mental to-do list. So I do that. But anyway, so I get up, I pray, I like make a cup of tea. That's kind of part of my whole thing. I have prayer and scripture reading and then, or just different spiritual texts. And then I go to the gym. And so I do, a typical workout. Those are all different days. But then I sit in the sauna. That's also an intense, stressor, hormetic stressor, but is teaching my body how to deal with stress. And then I come home, or obviously I shower at the gym, and then I work the rest of the day. And somewhere between 11 and 1, I just make sure I sit down and meditate. And that's just really
How
important.
long do you meditate for?
I just do 20 minutes. I do transcendental meditation, which is, I'm sure you talked about the different meditation forms. And I had tried to meditate my entire life and I was trying to make it something it wasn't. And when I went, I don't think people necessarily need to learn transcendental meditation, but for me, going to the classes and understanding what meditation really is helped me relax a lot in the meditation because I was like, oh, okay, this is normal to have all these thoughts and to be all over the place. And I'm
Right.
still getting the benefit. Like I'm still, as long as I continue to return to that mantra, I'm still getting the benefit. So, and I saw that, in my blood work. So I was like, okay, this is making a difference. And then work. Luckily, I do work from home, so that does allow me. I think it allows me to eat a lot healthier because I can, cook a bunch of stuff on a Sunday and I just grab it from the fridge. I don't have to. I don't spend as many hours planning and preparing as you would. I think if you eat out, work outside the house. So I feel very blessed in that regard. And then after work nowadays, it is all either filming or, researching. That's the other thing I'm doing in the morning. I've been reading research papers and planning scripts and that kind of stuff. Or I'm
And you
doing
do
that
an
after
evening
work.
walk too, right?
I do. So yeah, then once the day is like over, like, okay, I've eaten dinner, I've cleaned the kitchen, I've done all the things. It's sort of my like, okay, the day is over. Now we're going to go for a walk and just chill out, and I have this like beautiful piano music I listen to and, or, whatever is relaxing. Like sometimes I'm listening to this kind of more electronic chill out music um, and that's another way for people to meditate. Maybe you talked about that, but like a walking meditation and playing,
Yeah.
paying like a lot of attention to your feet. I do that when I say I'm traveling or I have had a really busy day and I didn't sit down to meditate. Then I'll use that time at night. I turn off the music and I just really try to meditate as I'm walking. But that is like my signal, like, okay, like we're done.
Mhm.
We've done all the work. And then I come back, wash my face and get in bed. And that is it.
The reason I said I do take an evening walk is there's a lot of research and a lot of people who talk to us about just getting outside
Hmm.
and just being a part of the environment and how healthy that is and how much a stress reliever that is. And so
Yeah.
when I was reading your daily thing and and you take certain supplements and certain
Hmm.
things
Not
to
a lot, not a
not a
lot though,
lot,
people.
not a
I do.
lot.
I know a lot of people are, they hear longevity and they just think, oh my God, I'm going to take like 500 supplements a day. And
I
like,
know
no, I
those
don't.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. And more is not better. I learned that the hard way. So yeah.
It's I know. I mean, I take two, maybe
Hmm.
three. That's it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just don't like taking a lot of stuff. I try to get it mostly from food, and
Yeah.
it doesn't always work these days because food is it's a whole nother subject. That's an
Yeah.
RFK
Yeah.
Jr. kind of
I'm doing a
subject.
research. I'm doing some research on that too. The nutritional
It's
quality of our food. It's actually
it's
not the bad. The news isn't as bad as we think, but anyway.
it doesn't have to be, and one of the and it's about choices, and that's one of the
Hmm.
things I really wanted to talk to you about because you're the perfect example of someone who makes the right choices. It's very
Hmm.
simple. It's a
Hmm.
very it's a very logical, a very thought out process.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of people who are under stress, and
Yeah.
some of it is overwhelming.
Hmm.
Who make lifestyle choices that are bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
I've been there. I've been there. So I totally get that. I can speak to that. If I
please,
have a very stressful day, or even let's just say I've been traveling. I used to live in Dubai, and like that travel would be like 24 hours of travel. I
right.
mean, that's a lot of stress on a body. I definitely am craving like sugar and hamburgers and French fries. And, I went through some serious stressors with my son. Same thing. Like, like I get it. Like you sometimes like when you're in that stressful situation, you just need to kind of like get by. And I'm not giving people permission. I mean, if you think like, let's say you're in a stressful job and that's just going to go on, well, then you got to really, you got to start evolving into better choices for your food for sure. Again, going back to that insulin response, like you really want to make sure you start limiting not just sugars, but anything that spikes your insulin. And nowadays, you can get a continuous glucose monitor on Amazon, actually, of all places.
Mhm.
They're like $100 for a month's worth of, CGM, and have this great app. I love it. I use it all the time to just check in and see how my body's responding to different food choices. And so you can kind of see where your blood sugar is spiking. So that's good information. You don't have to wear them all the time, but it's good information. Um, Sorry, we were going somewhere with this, and now I
Well, I
forget.
just it's the people that are watching right now
Yeah, yeah, okay,
and
yeah, this,
having
yeah,
such a hard time and not exercising. Their diet sucks.
yeah,
Some of them are relying on substances that they should not.
yeah, yeah,
And I want them to see that you're a normal person.
yeah.
You have stress like everyone else,
I'm a
but
single mom too, so
yeah,
trust me, like I've had a
single
lot of
mom.
stress.
I, I was raised by a single mom,
Yeah.
and you you don't spend $1 million a year, and I know
Mm-mm.
you know people that do. Um,
Hmm.
but it is very doable to make the right choices. You
Yeah.
don't have
But
to slide into the bad stuff.
yeah, well, and I think if you're in the bad stuff now, you just need to slide out and you know what you're doing, that's bad for you. Most people know that sitting up and eating pizza and like, after my brother died, I was really stressed. I used to have a bag of potato chips and several glasses of wine. I mean, one, I gained a ton of weight. It didn't help anything and it made me like the worst mom ever. Thank God that only lasted maybe like a month, 2 months tops. I mean, I was just grieving and that's what I was doing. And so it was like, okay, well, I knew that that had to go. So, okay, that goes, substitute olives and then I would then have less wine. And now, like, I just don't drink it all because menopause makes it impossible.
Yeah,
Like the reaction is it's so horrific, just one glass of anything is just like keeps you up all night. You get hot flashes. I feel like the next day, I feel like I was out drinking like a whole bottle of whiskey. I mean, it's like, okay, it's not worth it. I just, stop doing that. So, but if you're drinking, like you got to stop. Like you got to stop. And you're not going to stop overnight. You're just going to slowly reduce it. If you're eating a lot of sugar, you're going to slowly reduce it. Then you're going to look at like the other, are you eating the more potato-y chip? We know processed food isn't good for us. Again, it's loaded with sugar, even though it's not a sweet thing. And it's made to, it's engineered to make you eat more and more. So you got to get that out. And there's a great book. I don't know if this is the name of the author. I think it's Michael Easter. I'm pretty sure and he went and lived down in like somewhere in Latin America with these tribes. I just remember hearing this. And when he came back, he thought, okay, when I eat now, I'm not going to have anything. Like if I'm going to have rice, I'm just going to have rice. And I'm going to have chicken. Like he had these like really plain foods, and he lost a ton of weight because it was just like, it's impossible to overeat. You only eat like what your body needs to fill itself when you're not introducing all these flavors that are, exciting your brain chemistry and telling you like, oh, I want to eat more. I want to eat more. And I'm not prescribing that, but I'm just saying the point is very interesting.
Right.
So, but I think most people can take an honest look and go, okay, all right, I know that that's got to stop. So you stop that, and now like you take a month, you just make sure like a month, 2 months till it's habitual. Like you do that anymore. Maybe it's ordering late night pizza. Okay, now you don't do that anymore. All right, now, oh, you know what? I know that I've been eating too much junk. Okay, I'm going to work on that. And you just sort of, again, these like my younger brother, who unfortunately passed away, he used to order this cake. It was like this crepe cake. And this is what I think of when I think of habits. It's like, it was like a layer of crepes and then this tiny thin layer of cream and then another cake, another, crepe, and then another layer of cream until like it was stacked up like this, it was probably like 100 crepes and 100 layers and I was like, that's how you change your life. And so, like I said, I've been at this for 25 years and, really serious about it for the last 5 and really dialing things in. So, when people read my daily schedule and go, yeah, I can't do that. No, you can't. You're not going to do that overnight, and you shouldn't, because that's going to cause a lot of stress. So
Right.
you really want to ease into it. So first, you got to ease out of the stuff, or if you're not willing to like, the other way to do it, especially when it comes to food, I think, is to like, if you're not eating any vegetables, then like find one vegetable that you like and add that to your diet. Just one, like maybe it's a carrot. Okay, well, every day you're going to have a later you're going to add another vegetable and like start adding more, and pretty soon that starts helping with this whole GLP-1 and all that great stuff. It's easy, you'll start crowding out the stuff that's not good for you as long as you prioritize the stuff that's good for you. So and the same thing with exercise. Like if you're not moving at all, like your job is to do air squats. 1 minute of air squats 3 times a day has been shown to be as or more effective as like walking as an impact on your blood sugar. So people cannot tell me they don't have 3 minutes a day.
Right.
There's just no way. You have 3 minutes. You just have to do it. So you set a timer on your phone, an alarm on your phone. You're going to get up and air squats. I mean, that's it. Air squats. You can hold on to a chair if you need to. And I do that on days when I'm just so busy. I know I am not going to get out. Like on Saturdays or Sundays, I usually film like all day. I don't get out for a walk. And so I'm doing air squats and push-ups and, just kind of little things in between what I need to do.
I'm laughing because I do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I like I said, I was very active for a very long time. And as you get older, as you can attest to, sometimes you
Hmm.
pay the price for it. I've had a lot of injuries playing sports. So sometimes I cannot go to the gym because I
Yeah.
just can't push around weights for a while. But I'll do air squats. I'll do, um, uh, you know, uh, angled push-ups and things like that,
Hmm.
just to get going and just to feel a little bit better. And it really does work.
Does.
What one thing that you mentioned that is so important is not all at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Add one thing, subtract one thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
subtract, don't eat any cake for a few weeks
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
add air squats.
Yeah.
Then take away another thing and add a thing.
Yeah.
25 years, it
And
it
you'll be,
shows,
and
guys.
I think
You
I think what helped me too recently, especially like I said, in the last 5 years, sort of, or maybe even more, it's probably been about 10 years since I sort of discovered like this whole idea of longevity. And it was like this huge aha moment for me, like, wait a minute, I'm not doing this like for 8 weeks to a beach body. I'm doing this for the rest of my life. Like, and that just changed everything. It was like, oh, okay. So I just need to make this a habit. So if, like, let's just say I was unhealthy, I knew that I still had 40 years ahead of me. Okay. So, like, if it took me 10 years to like get this all together, okay. Like 10 years, that's still like I've changed the trajectory and maybe I've just added 10 years to my life. I don't
Right.
know. But, you get to the point where it's like brushing your teeth. This is all like, I wouldn't not do any of these things because it's just part of me. But I do want to go back to something because again, I have friends that are busy. I've been busy in my life, so people hear these conversations and they just go, "Oh my God, that's just one more thing I need to be adding to my mental stress list, my to-do list." And I have a friend, she's so busy. Her work life is so busy that it's hard for her to work out. She ended up getting like a treadmill in her house, and that has really helped her considerably. But when my son was young and I couldn't leave the house, I got an elliptical trainer. I had that in the garage with some dumbbells. But even when he was very young, there were times where I didn't work out, but I knew it was like, this is the season. He's little. This is my workout, is running after him, lifting him, playing with him. Like that was my workout for until he was, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9, then I
Hmm.
could get back into the gym. But so I didn't aggressively start going to the gym until he was, I think, 13 or 14, when I knew he could wake up in the morning, get himself ready for school. Like I knew that all and be not only at peace with it, but actually prefer me not to be there. So then I started going to the gym.
Yes, I remember those days,
Yeah.
and it's funny, you're absolutely right. And the greatest advice that I ever got about like going to work out, because some days you wake up and you're not motivated to go and
Mm.
you don't feel like going.
Oh yeah.
And then
Most days, I'd say
most
most days I feel
days,
like
most
that.
days, someone told me take the motivation part out, just
Yep.
throw it right out. He
Yep.
said make working out like brushing your teeth.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
go, oh my God, that's a brilliant
Yeah.
analogy. You don't brush your teeth. You have to be motivated to brush your teeth. You
Yep.
do it
No, you
because you
just do
need to
it.
do it. Same thing with the kinds of things that we are talking about. First of all, top of the list, because on me, is learn to manage your stress. Learn what they
Yeah.
are. Go to
Yeah.
stress.org. We have stress assessments. What you think are your stress triggers may not be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the things, because I was surprised when I've done it. The other thing is, as Julie said, your diet, the things you do, go for a walk, meditate, all those things that you do, you no longer have to be motivated to do it. It's just who you are.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
It is
it's
just who I
some
am.
you do it like like I said, like brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's the way to get healthy, is to live
Yeah.
our lives like they mean something. You're as we said at the beginning of the show, you only ate 0.65 out of 100 days for the rest of us. So you're going to live longer,
Well, I
God
mean,
willing.
hopefully,
So you might as well live
if as
healthy.
God wills it,
Yeah.
inshallah. But hey, back to supplements. So I'm actually at point, my pace of aging increased to 0.76, which is still good. It's still below 1 because of
Okay.
a supplement
How do
mistake.
you
And
how do you know
so,
that?
because I take the DNA
Oh,
methylation
okay.
tests. So yeah, you can get it through Novos, you can get it through um, True Diagnostic. But anyway, it's a Dunedin pace of aging test, and they're looking at, and it seems to be from what I can tell from the scientists and researchers out there, that seems to be one of the most accurate tests, because there's a lot of like bio age tests, but there seems to be a lot of inaccuracies. Like you could take it, maybe at 8 a.m. and then take the same test again at 9 a.m. and maybe get completely different results. A lot of the bio age tests, whereas this Dunedin pace seems to be very reliable. And it's just looking at your pace of aging, which, I think to illustrate this to people, if we have twins and you've got one who's smoking, drinking, working on Wall Street his whole life, and this one is like out in California meditating and eating the vegetables and doing all the right stuff, we know who's going to age faster, who's going to have the wrinkles faster, who's going to, so we know we can speed up aging. The question is, can we slow it down? And it seems to be that we can. We can't reverse it. I'm not going to, all of a sudden become 30 again, but you can slow things down considerably. I think by all these practices that we've been talking about, they're all serving to modulate that stress and kind of keep that mellow, and what you're eating is helping to help resolve stress, and it's just so interesting. Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time, and it's just a great place to stop. We could talk about this for a long time about longevity. It's become a very popular thing, but guys, if you're watching this, I mean, you see that it is not that hard. It is really not. It's just choices. And if the number one on the top of the list is you got to stop telling yourself it's so hard.
Yeah.
Because what is hard is being sick. And that's what happens. And that can come from bad stress management or no stress management, and it can come from your diet. It can come from all of the things that we talked about today and doing them wrong. Julie, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
I may have to
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor to speak with you and your audience.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But it's an important topic. And as people get older, I can vouch for this, they stress more about getting older.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Vicious cycle.
Like there's something we can do about it,
There is.
But I wanted to show people, I want people to understand that there is something they can do about it. And the one thing they should not do is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So visit Julie's site, read what she has to say, listen to her videos, which are great, and learn a few things, change a few things, start out. If you feel better, why not change more?
Yeah, change one, little by little, baby steps.
Well, thank you again. That's going to do it for us today. This has been your host, Will Heckman. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Don't forget, follow this podcast, subscribe, visit us at stress.org. But I also want to remind everybody that just like stress is different for each of us, there's no one stress reduction or management strategy that is right for everyone. That means you need to join us next time as we explore more stress management strategies and insights. Have a good one.